Good morning. Welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. I'm hoping that my microphone is working, and I'm going to slurp my coffee. Boy, does that scar show up today. Holy smokes. Want to hear a story about that? Well, whether you do or don't, I'm going to tell you. I have three sisters, right? My youngest sister, in which I still talk to, I have no problems with. My middle sister, which would be Holly, which does not like to talk to me. I haven't talked to her in about 7 years. And my oldest sister, Wendy, who has passed away 7 years ago. There's a story, a correlation between my sister Wendy's death and my sister Holly not talking to me and my family. She still talks to my mom every once in a great while, but me, no. Anyway, and I don't know why. I'd really like to know why. I don't pick up the phone and call her because she just was so nasty to me the last time I spoke to her. I won't speak to her. But this is Ag Talking Raw, and I figure I should tell this story about this scar that I can see it so predominantly. Maybe it's from the sun. I don't know. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and we were walking back from the dairy barn through the woods to the home where I was raised, my parents' house. And I remember I had a Spider-Man comic. Now, I wasn't big into comics, but someone had given me this comic book, and I was reading it on my way back home. And Holly and Wendy were ahead. Holly was in front, Wendy was in the middle, and I was behind, and Ella was probably not even on. She was at home, little girl, she was just a baby, a couple years old maybe. William's age, maybe a little younger. So anyways, Holly and Wendy were arguing, and Holly wings a stick at Wendy. And I'm looking, and I look up just in time for the stick to hit me in the face. And that was, I believe, 7 stitches there. So I remember pretty vividly. And of course, Holly got in trouble, and Wendy was like, oh, and I had to go to the hospital and get some stitches. And it was quite lucky I didn't lose my eye over the whole ordeal. If I hadn't looked up, it probably would have hit me here or right in the eye. So I kind of like my eyes. I like to see what I'm doing. And as a matter of fact, this new edition, these glasses are kind of annoying me because I don't like wearing glasses. But in order to see the fine print on the back here, about a year ago, I got these things. Not quite a year ago, but a year ago, I was kind of like, man, I can't see so well. And it was probably the worst decision of my life because when I got these things, now everything's small. I actually have to get a pair of glasses to read stuff with. So, but that's enough of my personal crap. So we're back from the straw job down in North Carolina. My buddy Steve, ISX Cummins 565, he is not around. He is in Alaska right now, and he's supposed to be back here by the 18th. But my problem is I need my equipment home. And I'm going to have to go and get at least 2 trips. I have to make at least 2 trips. Looks like we're going to have rain today, which is, it's not the end of the world because if we have rain today or tomorrow, I'm not making hay anyway. But yesterday was a beautiful day. Nobody's making hay in the area. There's hay mowed for weeks all over the place here. And just haven't had decent haymaking weather, so that's not going to happen. So anyway, I've been working on my truck and found that there was a bushing out of it day before yesterday, and I had to replace that. I got the parts yesterday and replaced that. Got some lighting issues that need to be resolved, so that'll put me into Monday or Tuesday before I can get the lights resolved. There's some 2 overhead lights that need to be replaced, and then my turn signals on the right and left hand side, there's a little computer chip in there, and they're probably $500 a piece for those stupid things. But that stupid computer chip or computer board controls which ones blink the turn signals. Now they both have turn signals, but one uses the side to flash, and the one uses the front to flash, and it's just, it's a nightmare. It's really stupid. I don't know why they have to have a computer board to operate a set of lights. Just dumb. Mm. So, anyways, with that being said, the truck is in really good shape. It does need a new set of tires in the back when I'm done before winter. The Mack truck, which, again, there's another truck. The Mack truck is in the shop. It needed new kingpins and things like that. So, kingpins, it needed the overhead done, just at valves adjusted. And they discovered that there was a broken valve stud which had broken off deep in the head, and they got to remove the head and replace the head because of it. So they're going to take all that shit off, and they're going to replace the head on the truck and the oil cooler. I believe that's what they're supposed to be doing. Now, I've given them a month to do this. Apparently they're starved for work, but I don't know. If they're starved for work, you'd think they would get right on it and do the job. Well, they did the kingpins, I guess, and there were some other bits and pieces that needed to be done. And that's okay, because Lewis isn't driving right now anyway. He is, Lewis is not driving right now anyway. He is moving. He bought a house, and he's moving his stuff from one area to the other. I've offered him to use my equipment and my trucks to move stuff, but it doesn't seem like he's in the mood to do that. But that's okay, to each his own. I offered, and the offer stands. So anyway, I've been fighting this cold thing for about 3 weeks now. I think it's pollen right now. I got home and went through a cornfield, checking the corn, which is beautiful, by the way. We have me and my wife, we have some waves in the corn. Now, when we left New Jersey, it started to rain, and it hasn't really stopped raining. It really hasn't stopped raining since we left for North Carolina. And it rained last night a little bit. It rained the night before a little bit. So, what do you do? So anyways, there's some waviness in the fields. Now, these fields are on hillsides, and, some of it is on flat ground. But the waviness is on the flat ground, it's more pronounced. But it hasn't been as wet on the flat ground. So I went out and walked around through those fields, and where I use the disc harrow, it makes slight ridges across the field. So it pushes it out, and then down, and then out again. And in those 3 or 4 rows, and it's not pronounced. You really can't see it when you look across the field. But every disc harrow does that. I don't think a vertical tillage machine does that, but I will say that the disc harrows do that. It was a little bit higher there, and the water laid kind of in the valley, and it laid there, and it takes longer for it to percolate down, which is okay. It's good that the water holds the water and goes down. But when we've had the amount of rain that we've had, of course you get the waviness. Well, it's not damaging to the corn yet, unless it continues to rain, and the lower leaves are not yellow. It's within a foot of one another. It's not really terrible. And when it tassels, I call it tasseling, but tasseling, depends on where you are and how you pronounce that A in that word. Because I know last year I got a lot of people just nagging my ass. Oh, what's a tassel? There's no such thing as a tassel. Well, it's tassel, T-A-T-I, tassel, or tassel. That's how I pronounce it. When it tassels, it will, and shoots an ear, that will all level out. It'll level out. It always does. Our farm, or these farms, are notorious for that waviness, just because of the type of soil that it is and the wet feet that it gets. So, if I planted the corn and it was wet throughout the entire growing season, like wetter, it would have been a little different story. They wouldn't be so pronounced. I mean, it would maybe be 6 or 8 inches instead of a foot and a half. And we know that the wet spots where it's really wet, which is generally along the roads, and in the regular wet spots, those have deep divots in them. I mean, they're really low. But I'm not concerned with that. It's no different than it was 10 years ago, no different than it was 20 years ago. It's no different today. It's just the way the ground lays, and it's the way that corn grows in those fields. So if you've passed my fields, you'll see that they're gorgeous, but they have this waviness. And my dad was concerned that it was the misapplication of fertilizer, or even the compost that I put down, or even my other special sauce that I've put on there. I've put three things on there that are very different than what most people use to grow a crop of corn. And it's working. It's working very well. And of course, we won't know until the combine hits the field. And that's for several months from now. And there's a lot of work that needs to get done between here and there. But the way it's looking is my goals will be met with the crop. I'm hoping to have an average of, last year my average was 216 bushels on about 140 acres, and I've doubled those acres, a little more than double. I have exactly 300 acres of corn in the ground, and with that 300 acres of corn, if I was to average 200 bushels, that's a fair amount of grain. It really is. If I do 200 bushels, but it's looking better than it did last year. Now, my dad says it doesn't, but I believe it does. The reason I believe it does is because it is, even though it's got that little bit of wave to it, it is more even than it was last year. The compost that I put on last year, I didn't get it all the way across all the fields that I have. And this year I got more on than I did last year, more product on more acres of it than I did last year. And I think that the color is deeper, and the root health, if you're in the upper Midwest, root health is much better. Last year we didn't get much brace rooting at all until it just never brace rooted, and very well. It was only just like this far up. Normally, brace roots come down from way high. They are two similar but different varieties, 106 day and 100 day. Whereas last year I had 4 varieties, but this year I'm only running 2. And they were 2 of the best varieties that I had last year, with the exception of the 100 day. They're only one of the best varieties I had last year. The 106 day was the best. I produced over 300 bushels to the acre on that variety. They were wet bushels at about 21% moisture, 308 bushels to the acre, but still it broke 300. And I grew a lot of that. Instead of it being 3 different varieties on the farm where I broke the 300 bushel mark, it's all that variety on that farm, 106 day. And the 100 day, last year it was 101 day, but this year is 100 day, and it has very similar traits or potential as the 106. And that's why I chose those varieties. The 100 day is a much more vigorous growing variety. I'm actually enjoying watching the 100 day grow because it is more even across. It can handle the wet feet a little bit better than what the 106 does. And of course, we'll see what that does next year, at the end of the year, and we'll see whether it's something that we want to go into next year. But the 100 day variety, I put that, and I knew that it had better wet feet tolerance, tolerance to wetter soils. And there's a reason that I chose that one, because there's a farm that I have that it's a good farm. It's got good soil, deep soil. It was neglected ground, but I put the compost, and I changed up my fertilizer program just a little bit there. And it's drop dead gorgeous. I mean, it is just gorgeous. You stand on the back of the pickup truck, because it is about 7 feet tall right now. You stand on the back of the pickup truck and look out across the field, and it is just perfect. There's a couple of divots where it's really low, not really low, but really wet, but not huge, not huge differences there. So that corn variety is growing very well, and they are the Golden Harvest varieties. They're Golden Harvest varieties, and I was going to grow some Pioneer seed this year, but I don't know. Next year we'll see how it goes this year, and I'm going to expand again next year to another 150 acres if I can. If I can do that. Well, I can do it. I've got the land to do it. It's just I want to choose property or land that is away from the deer and good soils, and that's just what I want. I'm either going to stay at the same, depends on how this fall goes, or I'm going to bump it up to 450 acres. If I get to 450 acres of corn, I'll be personally I'll be quite happy with that deal. Soybeans, I could grow wicked soybeans. I think I've discovered some interesting tactics that I can combat the deer with, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be growing soybeans. I don't really want to get into 3 crops. If the price of mulch hay doesn't pick up, and the new place I'm going to be selling to doesn't take the amount that I'm going to produce, then we're going to definitely change up the program. Corn is very expensive to grow. Soybeans not so expensive, but when you're splitting those, when you're splitting your time up between 3 different crops, you really need. I'm really going to need another bin, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not in the grain business per se. I mean, I like growing corn. Soybeans not so much. Soybeans was just a battle and a half. Now, if I could get my bean yields up to 100 bushels to the acre, which I believe I could, if I could get those deer out of there, and I have discovered a really interesting technique to keep deer away from fields, beans, anything really. It works. It works, and it's cheap. Oh, and it doesn't kill the deer. Not that I care about killing deer. I mean, I'm just sick and tired of shooting the damn things, but it just works for deer. So, and it's not expensive, and you can buy it anywhere. It's not a bad thing. So, but today, right now, if you ask me if I was growing soybeans next year, I'd say no. Now, the year after, I may do that. I don't know. We might get into January, February, and I'll be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be growing 500 acres of beans. I can kill 500 acres of hay and put beans in there, and could very easily do it. No problem. And cheaply deter them from bothering those soybeans. They will not go in the field with this stuff. So, and it's not fish emulsion either. That stuff worked. It was a great foliar feed, but it's not what I'm going to be using. And I'm going to do it, we've done it on a small scale already this year, and it worked like that. No problems, and heavy deer problems. We also have coyotes that are picking the deer off at a phenomenal rate. So if the coyotes are picking the deer off, then that's a great thing, right? I mean, coyotes are doing their job. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and they're eating fawns. And I don't see many fawns. I do see deer. I saw a big buck, though. He was big. I mean, he had a nice rack on him. I don't know if the body of him wasn't that great, but he was a big deer. I guess he was. I was looking at his antlers. I'm like, wow, that's a shit. He's got 4 points on each side, and it might even split at the end. He might be a 12-pointer and probably a spread of 20, 21 inches. It was insane how big he was, his spread. Now, I don't care to shoot deer anymore or hunt deer. I've shot plenty of huge bucks and let them rot because I just don't care. Yeah, that's the kind of killer I am. When you're watching your livelihood go down the toilet because you're feeding the state's crop, the state's hobby animal, you just begin to hate deer, and you hate hunting, and then you start to hate hunters because they hate your guts, and you'll find out who your friends are when you start shooting deer for sure. But that's just the way that works. Yeah, so that's just those are the kind of plans on the horizon and what's going on here in this neck of the woods. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are wondering what what the plans are for next year's straw. This year's straw isn't done yet. I mean, we're done down in North Carolina, but we have another job, and I got to get a. Tomorrow's Monday. I'm going to get a hold of the person that has the acreage in Colorado, and they're going to haul the tractor and baler out. They have a stack wagon out there, so I don't have to worry about a stack wagon. I just have to get two nuts in a machine out in Colorado, and that's it. Steve is in Alaska right now, so he's not going to be able to haul anything to Colorado, so I've got to get somebody else. And, it is what it is, but it's a money thing. There's a lot of money that it takes to do this. The North Carolina job takes $100,000 to do the job. And that's what it takes. It takes about $100,000. By the time you get your equipment there, by the time you buy the baling twine, the diesel fuel, the food, and the payroll for these people that you are, paying to do this job, and you have to pay them whether you're getting paid yet or not. And I've got the $2,500 bail payment, which is $42,000. That's what it was. And that's pretty well gone, that money, and I still have to pay my regular bills. So the regular bills don't count because they constantly come out of your. They constantly come. That's nothing special or new, but the payroll has to be paid. So it takes about $100,000 to do that job, and then we're going to split off and do this other job. And it's only a baler and a tractor, and probably two people could do it without any problem, and we can be done in 10 to 15 days, 12 to 15 days in Colorado, as long as the baling twine and the baler hold up, which it will. There's no problems with the balers. Baling twine, grease, minor hiccups here and there, and we can deal with it. Just run it. Two people can run that thing 18 hours a day, 16, 18 hours a day, and in big fields, and it doesn't take long at all. Now, they claim that they have the stack wagon that they can stack with. Now, whether they're stacking or whether I have to provide a guy to run their stack wagon, I don't know. If that's the case, then that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me as long as I'm getting paid to do the baling. I don't give a shit how it gets stacked or whatever. But I do have to iron out those details before I send my guys out there or my tractor. If we can't come to an agreement, then I don't do it. I just get to work here. I mean, I'm going to be working here anyway. I'm not going out. I don't have the time. I might fly out. I don't know. But the diesel fuel down in North Carolina was $1 a gallon more. So I can't imagine it's any cheaper out west. So we're looking at, $2.70, $2.60 a gallon for off-road diesel fuel. It's kind of expensive, but the price of the job, it's not going to cost me $100,000 to do that job. It'll only cost me probably $50,000 to do that job. And, the amount of ground that's there will be good. I'll probably make more money on that job than I did on the North Carolina job because it won't take such a huge crew. It'll only take two people. And I just need to find two people that are willing to get their ass in a baler at 5 o'clock in the morning and run until midnight every day for 15 days, 10 to 15 days. I don't think that the weather is so adverse out there at this time of year. I think it's dry, and they just do their thing. And there's no soybean planters up our ass, so it just makes a big difference there. So, but that's what's going on there. And I've got 3,500 acres of hay that has to be made here once, and probably another 2,500 acres twice. And every day that it gets later without my balers here is another day that probably 2 days that it takes at the end of the season to get it, especially if it's raining. But I have a Heston baler here, so I'm probably going to go knock down 100 acres of hay today, or 200 acres today, and get Timothy and Grant and Cody something to do while I am not here. See, I don't even have a stack wagon here. I don't even have a stack wagon here. And that has to happen. It has to come up. So anyway, I guess I'm going to end this at 25 minutes. Thanks, everybody, for being patient with me on this channel. Yeah, I'm going to have to do something on the other channel, on One Lonely Farmer. This one here is just my secondary channel, which I enjoy posting on when I post. I appreciate all of you. Give a thumbs up if you like. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Interaction is interaction, and it helps the channel. Yeah, just stay tuned for for One Lonely Farmer, because I do have some footage of the straw job. I lost my camera. The camera with the most footage on it is lost, and the other two cameras are nestled safely in my 7530, which is in North Carolina at the moment. And there's some work that needs to be done on the 7530. I'll give you a sneak preview. The brakes went out on the left side, on the right, the left side of the tractor. The brakes went out, so I have to order the brakes and get those changed out in that tractor, and that's going to be a little bit of a video series on that, because how often do you see somebody change the brakes on a tractor? Most people don't even know where they're at. And I didn't realize that until, just the other day. And they're like, oh, well, where are the brakes? I don't know where the brakes are on these things. How do you do that? Well, it involves tearing wheels off and track jack. I'm going to use the track jack on the 7530 this time. And we're going to pick that thing up, pull those wheels off, pull everything out of it, change the oil, and see what kind of carnage is in there on that left side, because there got to be some metal in my oil and brake shavings, and it's the left side for sure. Trust me. I was coming home the last 4 or 5 days of stacking, I was only using the right brake. And I slid through an intersection and, with one tire down the road. It was kind of scary. But it was scary for me, but it was really scary for the truck that was coming down the road through the intersection, because he made a beeline for the other side of the road. It was not a good situation. So that has to be done. But anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the flip side.